Well, welcome everyone to our daily meditation session. Please sit in the chair. It's fine. Oh no, don't worry about it. Sit comfortably. Tonight this is our largest audience yet, I think. There's 7 of us here, and we've got 5 people watching from the internet. Our live broadcast. So tonight is the English session. I missed most of the Thai sessions lately. But we'll try to get up so that we're here every day. Tonight I wanted to talk about dealing with the truth, because Buddhism deals specifically with the truth. I'm just going to talk here. You're welcome to close your eyes and meditate. Normally when I talk I close my eyes. I'm not trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to be meditative. So even while I talk, I'll try to stay in touch with the meditation practice. When you listen, you should also try to stay in touch with the meditation practice. Use it as an opportunity to practice yourselves. So Buddhism deals specifically with the truth. It's the core issue in Buddhism is the realization of the truth, or the realization of specific truths. In brief, the realization of the truth of reality, or coming to understand the truth about reality as it is. And by reality we're talking here not about theoretical reality or the reality of the physicists, the reality of philosophers. We're talking about experiential reality, the reality which you can experience. Some people call it subjective reality. But actually in Buddhism we're not dealing with subjective reality, and we deny the claim that first person experience of reality is necessarily subjective. Subjective here meaning particularly different for everyone, or unscientific. Because in a sense, reality for us is subjective. We are the subject, or there is a subject, and that's the mind, as opposed to looking at things objectively in terms of the object, or in terms of a third-person perspective. But it's not subjective in the sense that my reality is not different from your reality. This is the truth that we try to come to realize. It's an objective truth about subjective reality. So a scientist would look at meditation and say, you can't get truth from that. It's subjective. How do you know you're seeing the things you see? How do you know you're hearing the things you hear? How do you know it's real? It's subjective. There's no way of telling whether it's real or not. And this is the kind of reality, the kind of reality they're talking about is not the reality we're talking about. When we talk about reality in Buddhism, we're talking about experience. And in that we claim that my experience is the same as your experience. Because no matter what you see, you still see. No matter what I see, it's still seeing. And my seeing and your seeing is the same in the sense that it's both seeing. Meaning there are some essential building blocks of experience which are common to all beings, the experience of all beings. When we break experience down into those building blocks, then we have an objective understanding of reality, of experiential reality. This is what we mean by reality. So what is the truth that we're trying to realize? Well, there's a lot of truth that can come from experiential reality. There are many truths that we're going to realize in the course of the practice. But in particular, we're focusing on those truths that are going to free our mind. Those truths that are going to allow us to react appropriately to reality. We're not interested in what is it like to taste ice cream, or what is it like to see a supernova, or what is it like to hear an angel, or so on, or any mystical or magical experience, which is very much a part of reality. We're focusing on those truths that are particularly useful and have to do with the building blocks of experience, have to do with our interaction with the world around us. Because our experience of reality is not always pleasant. We want to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. And yet among the many, many people who wish to be happy, most of us are less than 50% happy. Less than 50% of the time, which means we're losing. Our reality is contrary to our wishes. So, in brief, something's wrong. You can never say this is a proper state of being where we want to be happy and yet we're happy less than 50% of the time. Some people live most of their lives unhappy. Even just sitting here, you can see that your experience of reality is not entirely pleasant. Maybe it's too hot, maybe it's too cold, maybe your head hurts, maybe your back hurts, maybe your legs hurt, maybe you're itching and scratching, maybe you're thinking about unpleasant things, maybe you don't like what I'm saying, or up in the air philosophical doctrine or theory. We're talking about the building blocks of our experience. You're hot. Well, heat is a building block. Heat is reality. It's really hot. How do you feel about the heat? You don't like it? Well, disliking is part of reality. It's part of your reality. That's your reaction to the heat, or the cold, or the itching, or the pain. In the meditation, we're going to see these things clearer than we're going to see the way reality works clearer than before, in a way that we couldn't see it before. Normally, when there's pain in the body, for example, right away we don't like it. Right away we've made up our mind it's bad. And not only that, we immediately take action without even thinking, without even really looking at it and examining it to see, what is this pain? Is it really bad? What's bad about it? And it can get to the point where even just hearing a simple sound, once we get a hatred or a dislike for a phenomenon, we become we could become reactionary towards it. Even just hearing someone's voice, when we get it in our minds that this person is unwelcome or unappreciated, is an unpleasant person, as soon as we hear the voice, there's nothing wrong with the voice. It's a sound that arises in the ear. We right away get angry. We've already made up our mind, and we're ready to block them out or do whatever we can to not have to hear the sound. This is our ordinary experience of reality. The truth of reality that we're trying to realize, to cut to the chase, to do your work for you so you don't have to practice. I give you the answer. The answer is there's nothing good or bad about reality. The realization that we gain from meditation is that there's no positive or negative experience whatsoever. It's our reaction to things based on an accumulated preference and habit of addiction, of needing things to be a certain way, of compartmentalizing reality, of thinking that somehow these things are going to make us happy. Somehow we're going to arrange our lives so that everything that we like is going to come to us and everything we don't like is going to stay away from us. We compartmentalize reality. We build up these false characterizations, judgments of innocent experience. And it's to the point that we've stopped looking, we've stopped examining, we've stopped appreciating reality for what it is. We already know the answer. Pain, bad, okay. Run. Change position. Go see a doctor. Get rid of it. And when we look at it, when we look at the pain, we see that it's totally not what we thought. It's something completely different from what we thought of it. You see, when we look at it, we watch it, and we remind ourselves of what it is. We teach ourselves, okay, you see this is pain. Okay, that wasn't so bad, and we look at it again, and pain. We just remind ourselves like this, pain, pain, pain. And as we open up to the experience, we see that there's nothing negative about pain at all. It's one of the most liberating experiences that come in the meditation practice during the time that you're practicing, is the ability to conquer the pain. You can get to the point where pains that have been haunting you through your whole practice for days and days suddenly vanish. Suddenly you conquer the pain. Your mind changes, your mind shifts, and it gives in. And you keep going back to it. You say, it's only pain. Reminding yourself, it's only pain. It is what it is. It's not bad, it's not good, it's not me, it's not mine. It's not a problem, it's pain. And if you do this enough, your mind shifts and your mind says, oh, it's pain. And it's like you've conquered an enemy. Suddenly there's no fear, there's no there's no anger or upset. Towards that pain there's a confidence. There's a understanding and a surety. You're certain in your mind. And you're not worried about it anymore. The pain comes, let it come. And then it just disappears. Like it was never there in the first place. It's just as an example. All of our experience is like this. Now, pain is a difficult one because it's ingrained in our minds that pain means there's a problem. The body is trying to tell us something, we say. But there's so much more that we can point out that's in the very same vein. That when we hear things, as I said, we can get so angry. When children come and they're bothering us, children can be very annoying sometimes. Well, there's nothing annoying about the child. It's in our own mind. We get annoyed. We get angry. We don't really hear the sound. Maybe we're busy with something else, and so we've compartmentalized reality. This sound is bad. This work that I'm focusing on is good. And you can only accept part of reality. The part that you can't accept, you have to stop. You have to block. You have to shout at the child or hit it or so on. And we work this way. One of the interesting things people often, we have this adage, this idiom about pain, about truth, sorry. And we say, truth hurts. And it doesn't take much explaining to understand where this comes from. We do believe this, truth hurts. And it's kind of like a necessary evil sometimes to tell people the truth. We say, it would hurt someone if you said, you're fat, by the way, you're fat, or you're ugly, or, you're too tall, or this or that. I mean, there's certain truths that we say you would never say to someone. Boy, you're old, or so on. Right? Look at all those wrinkles on your face, or whatever. You look very bad with those glasses, or whatever. It's these truths. That dress looks terrible on you. And sometimes we say telling the truth is painful. But in all of these examples, even these examples that are so taboo, and in fact it's funny because in Thailand many of them are not taboo. It's funny how culture defines what is right and what is wrong. I mean, in America, if you call someone fat, it's just so. I don't know in America. In Canada, it would be just it would be a total disgrace to call someone fat. But in Thailand, it's not such a big deal, and they're often. It's kind of funny in that way. And in Thailand, they ask women how old they are, and you're supposed to tell them how old you are. Things like that. So we build up these, in some cultures it's not wrong to be large, and it's not such a big deal, or at least it's not a very negative thing. I saw these two monks in Thailand, and I think it was kind of going over the edge, but I think it was going over the edge, and especially as a Western, it was kind of terrible to listen to. But this one monk, he was making fun of this dark-skinned monk. The one monk had light skin, the other monk had dark skin. And I guess in Thailand it's okay to make fun of people because of their skin color, because we were up on this mountain, and he said, "Oh, we'll leave you up here, and when we come back, the clouds will all be dark. The clouds will all be dark because your skin color rubbed off on them." And just making jokes like this, and I was horrified. But the point is, in some cases, making fun of people, I think, is always wrong. I don't think you should ever go that way. But the other monk, the other funny thing is, the other monk didn't seem offended by it. Whereas if you said something like that in the West, you might get hit for it. And so on. If you call someone a buffalo in Thailand, you might get hit. In America, people laugh at it. I think the buffaloes are strong. That's kind of a good thing. The point is that our perceptions cloud reality. We don't see things for what they are. My teacher, he said, if someone ever calls you a buffalo, just turn around and see if you've got a tail. If you don't have a tail, you're not a buffalo. And that's really that's really sums it all up. There's no reason to be upset. If it's true, it's true. If it's false, it's false. And so even when someone calls you a nasty name or points out even a real flaw, and we say, "Oh, the truth hurts." Sometimes people say, "Look, I hate to tell you, but and so on. So we say, "Oh, the truth hurts," but the truth doesn't hurt. And this is one thing I want to stress. And it's important to stress, I think, because Buddhism is probably, I have to think about it, but I think Buddhism is one of the most boring religions out there. Buddhism in its essence is the ultimate boredom. It's not, but that's how it's easily perceived. I mean, there's nothing fancy. There's nothing. The core of Buddhism. Now, the cultural expression of Buddhism is often very fancy and flowery and magical and mystical. But when you get deeper into it and start talking to monks and start hanging out in monasteries, it can be quite dull. You're expected to sit still. You're expected to look at very mundane things. Most of my Thai students would rather be seeing bright lights or angels or ghosts, or it's exciting for them. And to them that's Buddhism, but it's not Buddhism. It's not the Buddhist teaching. And many people are turned off by this. I've had people, right away when they, in some of my videos, I think I used the wrong word, or I used a word that's easily taken the wrong word, and that's the word enjoy. Because the word enjoy is such a positive thing for us, to enjoy something, to enjoy an experience. And so I would say things like, instead of enjoying it. But the problem with the word enjoyment is it carries a connotation of experiencing something to its fullest. But that's not what the word means. The word means to like something. But we give it this connotation of experiencing it to the fullest. So people would say, look at what you're telling us to block things out, to avoid things, to not experience things to their fullest. Because this is what the word enjoy means. And so people say that this is dull, it's dry, and people are so afraid of things like nirvana. I remember when I first heard about it, when I first started practicing Buddhism, that was the major hurdle for me, was this idea of nirvana. Because that's like no more sensuality, no more pleasure, nothing. I know theoretically it made some sense, but I was like, man, that's so hard to grasp, so hard to accept. And we think of non-enjoyment of pleasures. People look at the monk's life and they think of it as such a terrible, austere life, must be full of pain and suffering. Many people even look at meditation this way. They think of meditation as torture. The idea of sitting still with your eyes closed. And they make up all sorts of, I think it's just rationalizing when they say, you know, how pointless it is and so on. I think what they really mean is, I can't do it. It's torture. It's unpleasant. It's boring. And so I think this idiom applies to Buddhism. The truth hurts. It applies in the sense that people think this about practices like Buddhism. And again, we're claiming to understand the truth. And I would say that's the way it is. People would much rather wander around in illusion. I teach on the internet in many different arenas, and one of them is virtual reality. So we go in and there's the deer park and we're sitting in front of the Buddha. And people are coming in with such costumes. Men dressed up as women, women not wearing clothes, or very little clothes. You know, we got people with furry heads and tails and wings. And why we would rather have this is because it's exactly what we want. We can get what we want. We can control it. You can't control reality. You can't compartmentalize reality. As I said, you can say this is good, this is bad, but you can't say let the bad not come and only the good come. In illusion you can do that. Your illusion can be whatever you want. You go into this virtual reality and you say, I want this, I want that, I don't want this. And 90% of the experience is exactly what you'd like it to be. You have to work for it, you have to pay for it. It becomes an addiction, but you can get it. And so we'd rather be an illusion. As we say, truth hurts. But I said it before, I'll say it again, truth doesn't hurt. What hurts is our inability to accept the truth. Buddhism isn't a boring religion. It isn't dry. Being a monk, being a meditator isn't a painful experience. There's nothing painful about sitting still. What's painful is our inability to accept things for what they are. And that comes from our inability to understand things as they are. Once we understand things for what they are, we see they're not scary. They're not negative, they're not unpleasant. We see that all of that pleasure and happiness we were trying to attain and chasing after and spending so much of our effort just to get the very smallest piece of, all of that happiness could have been amplified hundreds and hundreds, thousands of times simply by coming to understand the reality in front of us, turning this reality into heaven. Look at things as they are. We see something, that's seeing. We hear something, that's hearing. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not me, it's not mine. It's not us and them and good, right and wrong and so on. It is what it is. Right now there's experience going on every moment. Once we understand this experience and we can live with it and accept it for what it is, there's nothing anywhere at any time that can cause suffering for us. We're said to be freed. We're said to be released from bondage and released from suffering. So this is why we practice, why we torture ourselves, we go through all this pain and suffering. Because we realize that it's not the meditation that's causing us suffering, it's our own minds, our inability to accept this very ordinary very simple reality. The truth doesn't hurt. There's another idiom, and that goes, the truth will set you free. And that's exactly what is meant by the practice of the Buddha's teaching. When you realize the truth, it will set you free. So that's the Dhamma I thought to give today. And now we'll go on to the more practical part of the evening, and that's to do the meditation practice. So first we'll do mindful prostration, then walking, and then sitting.